Not yet, not yet. Okay, we are going live. I'm going to hop over to Instagram and go live on here. Welcome to my weekly show, Levels Without Limits. I love to interview guests that are brilliant, that should be in front of the camera more. It's kind of like a fun thing for me. Okay, we're live on Instagram now as well. For whatever reason, my Amanda Marino page on Facebook won't go live, but there's always some kind of technical difficulty with these things. And I don't in-home tech person, but I do have people that are really good at it that help me. So I'm Amanda Marino, your host. I am the owner of Next Level Wellness and Behavioral Health, new name. And I've known Dr. Annalisa for many years, and I'm thrilled to have her here. I think the world of you. If you could introduce yourself, I'm just going to start by saying we've had a very long-term relationship, professional, and I've gotten to know you more personal over time too. And you're just such a beautiful soul, and you have so much to offer the world. And I love being able to interview people like you that I know don't make a ton of their own videos and things like that. Hear more from you. You're brilliant, and you have a pure heart, and you're building something really, really amazing up in Jupiter, Florida. So please introduce yourself, and please say hello to anyone who's here. Say hello, ask any questions throughout. The only thing is on Instagram, I can't see your questions. I can only see them on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So on there, you just you have to come on those platforms to ask questions or say hello.
So thank you for having me. I watched many of your podcasts, and they're always just great content, like different types of conversations. And I think that's what's fun, is like having this type of conversation where we can really just ask questions we want to ask.
Yeah.
So I'm Dr. Annalisa de Lima. I'm the founder and a clinician at De Lima Counseling Group. We're in Jupiter, Florida. We're also in many other states, Texas, soon to be in New York, Colorado, and we're also in Illinois. So we provide, all sorts of mental health services and substance use treatment in an outpatient setting for clients. And I surrounded myself with a team that I handpicked. Many of them are very close friends and colleagues, work that I respect tremendously. And so coming to work is not only fun, we also get to help people. So
absolutely, that's how I feel. Like everyone until recent, like everyone's been handpicked. Like we're kind of like all of our contractors are still handpicked or personally referred.
Right.
But I'm so blessed. Like almost everyone's been with me since day one. And if they're not, they still are really I'm still super close to Blake. And then everybody is hand chosen. But now we're finding ourselves in a place where we need people with some different skill sets. And somebody just referred somebody to us who has been amazing. I want you to meet her. Her name's Amy. But
nice.
Blessed with all really, really good people. It makes such a difference in the culture of the team.
It does. This is stressful work that we do. We know that. And certainly there's a lot of, purpose in what we do, but it definitely takes a toll. And so it's nice to have, people around you that you can kind of laugh and joke with, make fun with, and mess with in between sessions. So that always makes it easier. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And
so how long ago did you, because time escapes me with things. I've known you a long time, but how long have you had your practice now, and share some of the growth and some of the people on your team?
Yeah. So we opened probably just over 2 years now. So prior to that, I had worked in the substance use mental health arena in a variety of roles, therapist, program director, clinical director, corporate director of compliance, which was lots of fun. It was lots of fun. And so at some point when there was some transition happening in the facility I was working at, it seemed like a great time to get pushed into my own thing. Had been too nervous to do it before. And, I guess God places you where you need to be. And so I ended up coming on here and started off with one clinician, Tasia, who is lovely. And she does a lot of work with couples and eating disorders and so on. And gradually over the last 2 years have brought on 4 more clinicians, a psychologist, a psychiatric practitioner, and then we also have a concierge doc that works out of our office too. So we have a great team, and we also partner with functional medicine doctors as well, because as you know, which is kind of why I'm here, that we try to work on the whole person in respect to healing and mental health.
Absolutely. And I think I've shared with you, my undergrad is in alternative medicine.
That's so cool. That's a great
I was,
adjunct.
I was like, oh, that can be a degree. And I was like, I think I was in my late 20s when I went back to college. I was like, this is something I can vibe with, like
Yeah.
almost all my classes were so interesting to me. And it's like medicine that's as ancient as time, right? Like, why don't we try some of those things, incorporate some of those things before? I mean, because I come from, a very long battle with trauma and mental health and things like that. And like, I remember going to a place like South County where they gave me like 8 meds when I was 23 years old.
Wow.
What I was eating and like my what I was doing for my life. And, so I love that the holistic and the whole person perspective. And I do see that with your entire team. We were just there with all of them, and you do have a well-rounded, balanced kind of group, and just seem like you all have the passion and purpose, which I love.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that the journey of kind of whole person treatment, it started with myself. And I think, you talked a little bit about kind of your journey with that. I was in a previous career as an equestrian, and that was like what I did. Horses. I was actually better with horses than people. And, life had a different journey for me. And I had some big, major medical issues, major surgeries and so on. And I was told at the end of it, like, you probably won't ride horses again. You probably will be on medication for the rest of your life. And I really struggled with that major life change, and found myself really depressed and really struggling, which is when I decided to go back to school to do clinical mental health. But during that journey, over the next few years, feeling really unwell, being on medication, and feeling really mentally cloudy, looked into, I'd always been an athlete and always exercised and did outdoor things and so on. But coming from a small island where food is our life and we eat really richly, and we really don't study what's in it. We just, but we also
more pure there too, though, in the islands. Let's be honest.
Exactly. Most of the food is grown by local farmers and so on, and obviously things have evolved since then. But growing up, we didn't think of any of those things, and I actually found that my illness progressed as I ate on the go, and it was grabbing like protein bars and this and that and the other as I was going along. And it started to occur to me, like, what would happen if I tried to kind of look into eating and exercise as a way of continuing to heal. And found after like a year and a bit of being really heavily involved in that, I got off all the medications I was supposed to stay on for life, and also found myself back to a physical place where I was riding horses again. So it was like a testimony to me that,
and possible.
And possible.
I want to like backtrack and people take note of this. She's saying a year, right? So some people expect to go try something for 3 weeks or a month. If you make a commitment to something, like you had a whole thing that you were trying to heal, it does not, these things do not happen overnight. They take long-term commitments. I remember, like, I stopped eating dairy because I was in alternative medicine school for Chinese medicine in my class. I stopped eating dairy, gluten, and soy for like 2 years because I had a really, really bad acne. So I tried that first, but like, you have to be committed to sticking with it. I think overnight results. I mean, yes, you'll have moments where you're like, ooh, I feel a little better, but like, to get like the overall, like, get better, it doesn't happen overnight with anything, mental health, any of it.
Yeah, I think that is such a good point, because I do think we're a society now of instant gratification. Everything is, 1 hour or free or 24 hours shipped to your house. So we're used to really feeding into that rush we get from getting things right away. And I think that we've forgotten how long it really does take to heal your system, heal your body, heal your mind, right? And so you are talking about maybe small, consistent changes over a long period of time. And, it's about like progress, not perfection. There are definitely times when
this 180 too. That's another thing that we do to ourselves, and people tend to do with clients, is like, or family members, expect this like magical 180. Sometimes these things are small, granular steps forward, but they're still really important, and they're still really, we have to honor, like, even this, something that may seem small is really big in the big picture,
Absolutely.
Small wins or small, I had terrible stomach issues, and through going through my schooling and working with the doctor that was my professor, they,
Mm,
they were gone. Right.
wow.
I took some herbs and changed. I mean, now I can eat those things here and there, right? I just don't like live on them.
Yes.
But I can, like, I took away all that stuff from my life for a while, and it really healed my gut. The
Yeah.
gut and brain have a huge connection.
Huge connection. And listen, don't get me wrong, right? I'm a big time chocolate lover and things like that, but I really feel like balance is what it's about, right? I don't think that there's any bad foods per se. Of course, if what we do to the food probably makes it bad, but I think that there is a place for everything, and there is a place for, in moderation, right? I mean, some of that is really important to sanity.
Well, like when I brought you guys lunch, I also brought like a bunch of mini cupcakes because,
Right.
like, hey, let's have the nice healthy salad. But listen, if I'm in the mood, I'm not going to say no to the cookie. I restricted myself for so long. I went through the whole, like, I have a little bit of a resentment against like the diet culture campaign out there. It really just traps people, and you get stuck in it, and you're trying this thing and you're trying this thing, and you're just kind of yo-yoing, and it's like you never get to where, and then if you do get to where you want to be externally,
Yeah.
sometimes that really doesn't match because you're so lost and focused and obsessed. So just want to chime in. Keith Myers said, such a wise voice. Therapy can take months, medication can take several weeks, exercise, eating take years, spirituality, etc. Thank you so much, Keith. It's so spot on.
Absolutely. And I listen, I don't want to take away from the place that, medication has as well, right? I'm not saying, I'm not saying come off your meds and just start eating plants, right? Like that's not, I think that we talk about, that there is balance and there is, places for each of these things. And I think the main takeaway that I've seen through the research and even like anecdotally looking at my clients and so on is that therapy, medication that you're meant to have, everything works better when you're in a place where you're also looking at the whole body and treating the whole body, mind,
Absolutely.
body, and soul, right? Everything works better that you're trying to do.
Yeah, and it's never going to look perfect too. Like if you're a perfectionist, just try to kick that to the corner. I used to try to do everything like a star pupil and everything that I did, right? But like if I am making effort in all of those areas, and sometimes like spirituality will be more consistent than
Oh,
say, like they shift, but I always, come back to those core things. Like you said, like my mental health, having a therapist and a psychiatrist. I also am a coach that has a coach.
right.
Having, we partner with dietitians and things like that. And when I run through a problem personally, like I go to them with when it's something with food or food related, and kind of having that whole wellness, having the healthy lifestyle. Like you and I love to exercise. We like to be outdoors. Like that, those bring us enjoyment and also fill our soul. And have also helped heal your body, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely. I think that if I don't start my day with some form of movement, and I've changed my expectations of myself from like hardcore exercise to movement, because what I've realized over time in doing really high intensity workouts is that your body doesn't discriminate between mental and physical stress. So if I'm super stressed and I'm in there pounding myself in the gym, then, I think that my body feels it. So there it is. Again, it's about balance, like knowing your body and what you need. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. I've gone to the full extremes. I would go like, before work at 5 in the morning, and I would go after work. I would do like fasted cardio, and I would go back later. Like I've done all the crazy things. So if you want to go down a rabbit hole of trying something, I've tried it. I can tell you not to do it. And then when I did, at one point, I wanted to do a competition because my dad was a competitor, and that spiraled the first ever like version of an eating disorder that I ever had. I started to get body dysmorphia. And if I ate a bad food, I wouldn't let myself keep it in me. So
mhm.
like it spiraled something in me that I didn't ever have a problem with. And I was very confused because everyone I knew had it since childhood. So I
Yeah.
quickly said, okay, I'm not going to be a fitness competitor. I'm just going to work out to be healthy and feel good and clear my mind and move my body, like kind of like you're saying. It's
Yeah. And the hardest thing for someone who um, is perfectionistic and coming out of trauma, we see a lot of people that struggle with that, is finding that balance and is giving yourself the permission to say, okay, today is I'm going to take the dogs for a walk day. Maybe it's not going to be that hardcore thing, or today I'm going to go out with my friends and family and have a great meal and have the cake, right? It is about that balance and letting yourself know, and realizing the other key piece that I think a lot of us don't do when we're pushing hard with career and we're pushing hard to achieve something, is realize how important rest is and how important sleep is, right? And so I was looking at something yesterday that scared the heck out of me, that talked about how much lacking sleep can actually affect your brain over time, right? And even affect your memory, and how important it is to make that a priority from early on in your life. And it really makes such a big difference to even inflammation in the body and so on when you don't get enough sleep, right?
Yeah.
And how the neurons fire in your brain, etc. But it was
Yeah.
a pretty interesting study.
It's so true with the sleep thing. And like, I've always kind of like, I get this burst of energy at nighttime. It's like this.
Mhm.
So I either can lean into it some nights, or some nights I can fight it and like, take something to help me sleep. And also like work on sleep hygiene. Like,
Yeah.
a little timer that says, and now your bedtime is in 30 minutes. And that's right. Sometimes I don't, but I can tell you, I just went through a really hard couple of weeks and my sleep was all messed up. And I took this whole weekend. I plan on just doing Saturday, but I stayed in bed till Saturday watching TV and napping. And then I spent a large part of Sunday doing the same. And my body just, if I don't do it, my body will shut down for me. Like, I lost a very close friend. I was asked to help like throw her celebration of life. She has 4 children. It was just like so much going on, right? And like, I was on overdrive and I had a job to do. So when I had the job to do, I was able to focus. But then when all that was done and like the celebration, I was just like left with myself and my feelings, and it was hard.
That's when it all hits you, right? When you're in movement, you can tuck it away and put it in the compartments, and then as soon as you're still, it all comes flooding back to you.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, that's and that's what I see with my clients when they come in and they're really struggling. Is the first questions I want to ask them are, how are you sleeping? Like, what are you eating? What are you doing, outside of just coming to talk to me and potentially, medications and so on?
Yeah.
Because there's such a, all the studies now are pointing towards or indicating a strong correlation between inflammatory illnesses, or inflammation in general,
Yeah.
depression and anxiety. And it's not to say that they necessarily cause it. They obviously can't really determine that with these types of studies. But what they can say is that there's a strong correlation between increased depression and anxiety, with everything else kind of held constant. And what they do also see is when people clean up their diet and they start to move more and they start to take out the inflammatory foods from their diet, that their depression and anxiety over time, with the other things continuing, the other treatments, gets much better. And
Really,
I
it
see that all
makes
the time.
I mean, it makes sense on like, just like when you think about it kind of level, but to have the science to back it up is fantastic,
Yeah,
because like, remember the old saying, I remember, you are what you eat.
exactly. I
Or
mean,
that's not,
back to the old stuff, right? That used to tell us what to do. Back to the old stuff, like when we actually used to like live in that way and we didn't even, it was intuitive, right?
yeah. I try to listen. Of course I don't do it perfectly, but I've been through so much stuff of versions of the diet culture and the body shaming and all the things I've gone through, becoming a mother young, at 24, like having had being a hip hop dancer and a model, and then getting like the mom stomach at 24, like that was really hard. But then I
Oh,
realized how petty in the scheme of things it really was when I lost my grandmother the next day, about
oh,
being upset about it. It was like, is this really that big of a deal? Okay, I have some mom, battle wounds, and I'm proud of them today.
yeah.
And
That's, I mean,
body how it is.
what battle wounds to have. I mean, even, to me, there's no better battle wound than having mom battle wounds. But even the things that the scars and so on I have from my surgeries, like, to me, I'm proud of them. I feel like, my body battled through that and I'm here today because of it. And it's pretty miraculous what my body was able to overcome, right? I think, and if you can look at it from that perspective, sometimes it helps, right? When you have
Riding,
the scars.
and that you're riding horses again is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously something that gave me great pleasure. I will say I was not in my best behaved when I was initially told you probably won't ride horses again. I didn't behave very well. I'm not proud of that moment. I didn't react well to the poor nurse and doctor that told me that.
Hey, we're human, and that's like your passion and dream. Actually, my daughter and I love to ride. We went riding a couple weeks ago, and we did a trail ride and we did a lesson. Because I always, if I haven't been in a while, I just like want to do the lesson just to get comfortable again with her, especially for safety. And then we did a trail ride. But yeah, it's when you have a love for things like that, they don't go away, you know. And that you get to still have that in your life is a beautiful testimony.
When you go to a lesson in a strange barn or you go on a trail ride, the secret is they ask who has experience riding. Never put your hand up because they always give me the crazy horse. I swear to God,
the worst horse.
They always do.
They gave me this horse that did not want to do anything. Like I mean, I was doing everything they told me to do. They were like, he's really just being an a-hole. Finally, once he got used to me, it was fine. But it took, yeah, they did. I said I said I was intermediate. So yes, they did give me the worst horse.
When we used to travel as kids, my mom used to always tell the instructor she rides all the time because I'd been riding since I was like 5 years old, and they would always put me on some crazy horse that would buck me off. And I told her, I said, please stop saying that. Just let me ride the lazy one.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
go ahead. No, I was just going to ask you, so how do you like implement this whole person perspective like into your group practice, right? Yeah. So you have different clinicians doing different things. You have the way you do things. Is this something that's kind of like a group perspective, or everyone has their own version of it? Like, how does that work?
Everybody, I think, has their own version of it. Like, for example, with me, it's super important for me to find out, as I said, how I think we all kind of assess how someone's sleeping, how someone's eating, how are they moving. I think the other way that I view the whole person system is when we're healing trauma, because all of us work with trauma. I mean, it's very hard to be a human being and have not experienced some. And I know trauma is really like a pretty heavily used word, but some kind of difficult experiences, right? And whatever we perceive that to be. And what we have found is that when people experience very challenging childhood environments, that the body goes into a state of, a trauma response, fight, flight, or freeze, right? And a lot of times, like, the brain activates into that. And when you stay in that for a sustained period of time, the brain kind of stays active like that, right? And which causes a lot of times inflammation, right? It causes your body to react because the immune system comes online to fight, right? It's ready to go. And so you stay in that a long period of time, and your body is often kind of earmarked towards an immune response. And so we're even seeing like a lot of immune diseases and chronic illnesses of immunity have started with childhood trauma or have been exacerbated by that if you are predisposed to it. So that is an important piece for us to look at when we're screening and when we have clients coming in. And then I think the other really important piece is the education of how like food and so on helps to reduce inflammation. But the last piece of the whole person perspective is recognizing that healing from trauma or any other mental illnesses is really like a holistic thing. Therapy is a very small piece of it, right? It is about healing the nervous system, right? And the cortisol response that people have. It is about healing the chemistry in the brain. It is about healing the thought process in the brain and the automatic thoughts that come. And it is about healing behaviors as well, right? And a lot of times it's about healing spiritually, because when you go through trauma, it affects your connection with spiritual connection and connection with others as a result. And so I think that looking at it through that whole lens, so that somebody doesn't come in and say, hey, I just want trauma therapy. And we do a round of a few rounds of EMDR with them. And they're like, well, what's going on? Why am I not feeling better? Or we do some CBT, or we do whatever, eat any of those components, and they're not feeling great. Yeah. It's understanding that there are multiple prongs to this healing of your complex system.
How's your home life, right? That's a big one. Like a lot of our clients, it's like, how is their home life? Like, I mean, many people choose to stay in situations, whether it's roommates or partners that like really aren't good for their mental health. Mm-hmm. I mean, another thing that you said made me think of self-regulation. It took me a very long time to self-regulate, to not pop back at somebody, to actually learn the ability to pause. Sometimes say nothing or have a non-emotional response. Like that takes a lot of time to learn. And
toughest one. I think that's one of the toughest ones to learn. And whether it is in a response to anger or response to any other sort of heightened emotion, I love to talk about putting the pause in, because that is the most valuable skill you can ever learn. Because I don't care who you are. the person that has the calmest approach to a situation will always come out on top, right? So if you're a businessman negotiating, whoever you are, being able to be calm and utilize the rational part of the brain and the processing part of the brain, analytical part, as opposed to emotional part, when that's fully online, you're the sharpest you can be, right? And so that's the person that always wins whatever they need to win in that moment.
Well,
So
I will completely pause and remove myself from the situation and even like sometimes they say, oh, don't go to sleep angry. Sometimes I have to counteract that a little bit. I'm not saying go to sleep with like this awful thing, but like sometimes sleeping it off, you have a completely different feeling and emotion and thought of the thing when you're not emotionally charged. And like I had to try this out a lot to believe it, but it's so true and it helps me so much because I have a mouth on me and I can get myself in trouble. And so now that I've learned to it's just so much more peaceful, you know?
yeah,
And then I do need to say something. I say it with a non-emotionally charged response, which is so much more logical, so much more mindful and thoughtful. And I never want to cause harm, right? And obviously when we're emotionally charged, we tend to, I'm not somebody that does that. I don't shoot out the side of my neck and like hit your weaknesses. Like that's not who I am. I would never do that.
yeah. But I think that that's what you just said there. Some therapists might come after me for this one, but I 100% agree with you. I tell all of my clients that I am a strong proponent of you. You can go to sleep angry, right? You can still be civil, but you can table it until the next day. And the reason that is as you said, there's some people that take more time to process and come down from their emotions. I think the person that came up with that "don't go to sleep angry," was either either some sort of guru or somebody that had like really tapped in on meditation and could really calm themselves and had reached that heightened level, because most people can't just resolve something in the moment if it is something that has underlying layers to it. And if you're in any kind of relationship, you're not just bringing to the table what is happening in that moment. It's everything else plus your entire past that came before them, right? So it takes a while to like come down from that one.
With two mature people, you can like pause and table that heavy thing or that emotionally charged thing and continue on, not like going to sleep like furious at each other because they say like what you never know if you're going to wake up in the morning. You never know if you're going to come home once you go out in this crazy world, these crazy drivers. You know what I mean? Like things like that. Like to always try to leave situations good. Like, you know, like I just this is just coming up for me, but like my friend that passed, like we had been friends for 15 years and we had our times that we were closer and times that we had some struggles. And God gave us this past year of like the best, most pure closeness that we ever have. And I have to be just so thankful for that because I haven't had that chance with everybody. I haven't had that chance of repair, healing, and like the most pure versions of us show up as our 40-year-old, she's almost 40 and me 44, like our adult mature selves showing up in this relationship of love that we've always loved each other. We just have times apart, but it's like you don't know what's going to happen. So there is that, but there is the pause. The pause is, and then another thing that's been a great lesson for me is sitting with it.
Yeah.
Like we're taught when you teach clients, okay, this is what happens and this is what you do and this is how you get through it. And that works for so many things. But what about the things it doesn't work for?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, I'm not even going to go into the fact that there's AI now. A lot of my clients are like, I used AI when I was in the middle of a fight with my wife, and it told me how to respond. Anyway, and a lot of times,
number one, I was at a conference that had the one I went to in Dubai. There was founders, there was tech, I was talking to a tech guy. He said the number one topic that's asked to AI is mental health questions. That's it. I love AI, but don't go to AI for every person and every situation is unique. It's not going to be your therapist. It's not going to know you and in your past and your history. So like, please use AI for lots of things. Just don't go ask for it to do your therapy or your diagnoses.
Well, yeah, certainly. But I would say that sometimes, even that is a form of process, kind of typing out what you're feeling. I'm like, I love to do this thing where if I'm upset or somebody's text me something I'm upset, I will go into Notes app and fire away what I want to say. And I tell my clients this, write it in your Notes app. Do not send anything. Give yourself like, a few hours or overnight. And the next day, I promise you're not going to send that same text, right? So it almost takes a time of self-reflection, right? And pause.
I have done it where I have wrote it out in my notes and saved it and just edited it a little bit, but didn't still feel the same way the next day. So I have had that happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're probably a little bit more insightful than maybe most of us, but I feel like, yeah, I'll tune in a little bit. But there are days past where I was like, whoa, I was really gonna say that. That probably wouldn't have been a good thing to say, you
Yes.
know?
And I'm
Yeah.
a big person nowadays where like text can be so misconstrued
Mhm.
that I know I sound like a bitch a lot of time in text, and that's not how I mean to come across. And so like I will say, hey, can we bring, like, there's certain people that work with me or that I have relationships with that we don't have certain conversations via text because it's taken the wrong way often. So
Sure.
we table that for conversation.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's another good piece of it. Technology is something that's super interesting, right? Obviously, it's a great help right now, but in a lot of ways, when I look at, so that's another piece of the whole person. How much time are you like spending on your phone? How much are you like taking in from technology? How much time do you actually give yourself like to calm your brain? Because we're seeing all of these, ADHD diagnoses firing back and forth like nonstop. And I'm not saying there's not legitimate diagnoses, but you know, I think that there's a lot to be said for how much time our kids and moving up and even adults are spending on their electronics, right? They're looking at several things at once, doing several things at once. I would never say I had ADHD. I would never say that. But right now, I have to force myself to focus on one thing because I'm used to trying to do many things, and nobody really multitasks as well as anybody says. It's the brain cannot provide equal processing to each element, right? Something's going to give.
I think
So
I'm great at it sometimes. I'm not. And like my partner, it took him time. He used to think that I would intentionally do something like leave, like after cleaning the counter, like leave the bottle and the paper towel on top of the counter because I would go on to the next thing. And I was never mindfully leaving it there. I was just already on to what was next, or I'll
yeah,
start in one room and do a little bit over here and then start in the closet. And I think that that's a functional way to do things, but it's not. It's chaos.
yeah,
But so I've tried to like that takes a lot of I definitely have tendencies, ADHD tendencies, but
mhm,
I learned how to like harness them for benefit or notice them, and work on focusing on one room at a time, one
yeah,
thing at a time. I'll take on like 20 projects too. You know,
yeah. I think that like a lot of the symptoms that come out of trauma can mimic ADHD and a lot of other diagnoses, right? Because when your nervous system is activated and when you're constantly in fight or flight, and we see this with kids or adolescents all the time, when they're in a dysfunctional home where there's a lot of fighting and conflict, they can't sit still, they can't focus well, they aren't doing well in school. A lot of times they're pretty reactive.
yeah.
And then they get labeled as either problem kids or ADHD, and then they're given medication. And so, you know, when I have this is the piece when the clients come in this assessment piece when there's significant trauma, we work with our psychiatric practitioner. We aren't going straight to any of those diagnoses until we do some work, unless there's been like legitimate stuff that has been tested and so on, and periods free from substances, long periods. But when we're seeing symptoms like that, we're like, let's do some trauma work and try to calm the system down first. Let's make some other changes first and then see. And our psychiatric practitioner does this beautifully. She's like, we're not going to medicate ADHD right now. You're in the middle of trauma work, right? Anybody is going to look ADHD. Let's see what happens in 2 to 3 months when you're through this and
Yeah.
when your system has started to calm down, and then we'll reevaluate.
Yeah. And the thing too with trauma, for anyone listening, like, trauma, that, like, not to minimize anything that's trauma, right? Because when I tell people my trauma, because it sounds like a Lifetime movie, people are like, oh, well, mine's nothing compared to that. And then they share with me and I say, yours is just as traumatic as mine. It's how it makes you feel and how it affects you, how it affects your day to day. So never feel like your trauma like has to be on a scale or comparable to someone else's. If it's trauma to you and in your body, it is to you. And it's something that gets better but doesn't go away. I really had a belief system years ago, that I was going to work on my trauma so much, because I've been doing it since I was 7, right, in therapy, that I was going to put it in this little box over here, and that's where it was going to stay. I was going to finally be done with it. And then I went to a trauma intensive and realized, oh wait, that's complete nonsense. This is a journey that I'm going to be working on my entire life, but thank God I know where to go and and who to reach out to when it does come up. Like in my TEDx, I talked about the lawn equipment, like out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
like I started to like get body reactions and sensations and things like that to days that it was lawn. And anywhere I went, Blake and I used to laugh about it because for a while when I first realized it, anywhere we went, it was lawn day. If we worked at my house, his house,
Mm.
office, somewhere random, everywhere it was like following me around. And so I had to do some EMDR around that and how to do some work around that.
Mm.
Uh, and sometimes I notice it and sometimes I don't now, but that's kind of trauma. It some can come in sneaky and you don't know why. But if you know that you or have done some trauma work that you can go back into it and dig deeper to whatever else has come up, you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, when we do the EMDR work and we look at like all of the things that are tangled together in a memory that's stored in a maladaptive way, right? It can be sound, sight, smells, little snippets from here and there. It's all interwoven and put into the filing cabinet of your memory in kind of a messy way. So you could go, I have people say this all the time to me, like, yeah, I was out there the other day at this pleasant, experience, and all of a sudden I'm like really triggered in my body. What's going on? Right. And it's probably one of those little pieces that didn't get tucked away properly in the filing cabinet. There was no conscious recollection that this was related to my trauma. So I think what you're saying is really valid. And also, like, I look at trauma a little bit like a Rubik's cube, where as your perspective in life shifts or the experiences, the cube turns a little bit and another side is exposed, and that's another side of the trauma, perspective of the trauma, or a theme in the trauma that sometimes comes up at a different stage, or maybe that you weren't accessing before. So
Yeah.
sometimes it can be, not to make people feel hopeless that they're not going to get through that trauma, that trauma is something that makes you who you are. And
Yeah.
certainly, not to take away from how difficult that is, but it actually, the layers upon which your trauma is formed and that you grow through and grow over those layers, it actually makes you a more resilient person and so on, if you do your work, right? If you process it and so on.
It actually, when you would think that when I realized that I couldn't put it in the box with it, that I might have been disappointed, right? But I actually found relief in that because
Mm.
I kept trying to get it to this place where it would be gone. And when I
Yes.
realized that, like, okay, it's so much better than it used to be, right? I can talk about it openly. It makes other people feel more uncomfortable than it does me when I talk about it. But I know that I'm doing it to help other people. And it's given me what I ever want someone to go through. I went through hell no.
Yeah.
But it has given me a superpower of kinds that I can relate to people and let them know they're not alone. You are not the only person that's been sexually abused. You are not the only person who's watched their mother be domestically abused. You're not the only one who has been, involved in an abduction or any kinds of these crazy things, drugs around you as a kid. Like, you're not alone if you've, hated yourself or had low self-esteem. Like, it's given me a superpower to yeah, I still feel like ass sometimes. Sometimes like I don't feel like I'm meant. Like, who the hell am I? And I have the imposter syndrome. But at the end of the day, the trauma I've gone through and the work that I continue to do through it
Mhm.
helps me to help people in the special way that I do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it gives you, that superpower is also the ability to have compassion and connect with people, but also the ability to have the resilience to keep going, right? I'm sure there are times when you probably want to curl up in a ball and give up, but the resilience that you developed through your experiences, really has allowed you to kind of keep trucking forward. And when you've done that before, things aren't as scary anymore, because you're like, I got through that. I can certainly get through this, right? I
Yeah,
can certainly.
it brought me peace to know that I'm on a lifelong journey of healing.
Yes.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, that brought me peace because it sounds better. It feels better. It's not like, oh, I have trauma. I'm going to be like, my belief system is I have trauma. The kind of trauma I have, people are in institutions their entire life, and I'm lucky I'm not messed up more than I am. And I'm meant to have a messed up life and be a shitty mom. Like, that was my truth of the story I told myself for a really long time. And it kept me really sick. And
Yeah.
so, like, I challenged that story and was like, no, why do I keep hurting myself? Because I was hurt. Does that
No,
make sense? You know?
absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's such a great message to people really struggling with trauma, is that, the hope is that any of these small things that you do, that you focus on working on, or the steps you take forward, or even just talking to one other person about it, like all of those little steps are a journey of healing, right? Are helping you. I think that people think that trauma work is, I'm going into my session and I'm doing EMDR and whatever. Trauma work a lot of the time, yes, that's a piece of it. Trauma work sometimes is stepping into an experience you didn't think you could step into before, or is pushing through the anxiety about something that in the past you couldn't. Or maybe it's just getting up and moving today when you don't feel to, right? Like all of that is developing resilience and discipline and healing. So,
And listen, and there's some days where it's okay to say, F it. I am going to hide from the world and I'm going to take time for me and I'm not going to be accessible to anyone. And I'm going to binge watch and read and play and lay with my puppies. Like those days are important too. And better when I get to choose them rather than them choosing me, like by getting sick or something like that. When I choose a shutdown day, it's a good thing.
Well, I think the important message there is that you need to choose them, because if you don't do that, they're going to choose you, right? I always say that if you don't allow your system to rest and recharge, and that was the big takeaway that I just remembered there. And I said, I don't have ADHD, but I just remembered it from that study on sleep, was that sleep is a healing of your body. It's actually a cleansing of your system. So you don't actually go into deep rest. Your brain is doing more work than ever, but it's cleansing your system. And we know that because of trauma. But what I didn't know is that it's also cleansing the rest of your system. That's when all of your other, systems come online to cleanse your body. And I think that if you don't allow yourself to do that, you'll get sick, you'll crash, your mental health stuff is going to really come up. And so taking the day before it takes you, I think that's important,
Well, I planned on last Friday, I was like, all right, I'll do work in the morning. And I went and I got a 90-minute massage. And then I did some kind of like, I don't even know what it was. It was like a crystal bed with crystal lights on top of me and then like medium kind of readings.
Right.
I didn't know what I was fully signing up for, but I was like, I'm open-minded. I'm like hurting right now. And then I did a sound bath. So after that on Friday, then Saturday, like I feel like all that stuff kind of like came in me and through me. And the lady was like spot on with like stuff with my dad and my godmother. And it was like pretty beautiful. And then to finish with like the sound bath, like I passed out in it and it was like, and then I went in the sauna and then I left and then I came home and I was like very, very relaxed. And then it was perfect to choose my shutdown day for after that. Cause I just did all that healing that like I didn't have to show up for and do work for. I just got to be.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and you also mentioned that like the cuddling up with your dogs and having one of those days. I have to tell you that to me, the most healing thing is animals. I'm still about it. So for those people out there that don't love animals, I really feel sad for you because I feel like they are.
I don't love animals, but I went on 2 safaris this year. It was a dream come true, or last year. No, I mean, my man is also very cozy. He's a big guy and he's very cozy and he's like a safe space and provides a safe space. But the dogs do a different thing for me. Like, they're not humans. There's a different kind of connection between like my children, my partner, my dogs.
Yeah.
But I mean, my favorite thing, which I barely ever get anymore, is cuddling with both of my kids at once because they're 20 and 13. Like having one, like we used to do on Sunday mornings or whatever, and they would both come lay in bed with me and it's who I love the most. Now they don't. Now they could care less. I got them both a shirt for Christmas because I used to say that all the time. Mom loves me most, or I'm mom's favorite, or something. Like, but they both won't wear it now. They're too cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was really gonna ask you, like, is it true that there's no favorites? I know that my mom always used to say she had no favorites. I'm pretty sure she had a favorite, but I can't ask you that question because
I will be dead honest. Like I could not. They're so different, and raised completely separately. Like because they're 7 years apart, and one's a boy and one's a girl, and they're very just like my relationship and my connection with them both is so
different.
Deep. So deep and special and just different ways. So I cannot say there's a favorite. I really couldn't. I wouldn't.
And I'm sure there's like,
my favorite son and my favorite daughter.
You're lucky you have one of each. When you have 2 girls in the household, they're like, which one's your favorite? Right? That's a different story.
No, it's funny, and they like, and they never fought because there's such an age gap. Like it would have been ridiculous for my son to fight with his little sister when she's 7 years. I mean, now they do, but like it's funny when they do. They have their funny little ways of fighting. They call each other names. I'm like, you guys can say that in the house with just us, but don't do that around Aunt Leslie. Don't do that around your grandma. Don't do that around, like they did in front of Blake's wife one time when we were on a ski trip at one of my conferences. And she was like mortified. They're like flicking each other off at the table. Oh my God, you can't do that stuff. You guys, you can do that at home, but like not everybody knows that you guys are playing and like, this. So, but I'm very, very blessed. And I did not carry on the trauma that I went through to my children, right? Like, and that's possible too. That's a belief that I think a lot of people believe, like, oh, I'm gonna these genes are screwed, or I actually have a biological brother who I don't speak to who says that, like, he was never gonna have kids because he was never gonna reproduce our father's genes, which
Yeah.
I had two kids at the time, so that was a lovely
Yeah.
lovely thought. But like, we don't, like, we learn. My mother and father did the best they could with what they had,
Mhm.
and I do the best I can with what I have. And I have more knowledge, and more experience. And hopefully my children will do even better. That's my hope.
I mean,
That's
and that's a lot of the message that I get, because I have clients that come in and say, I don't want to I don't want to look at my past, because I'm not just here to blame my parents. And it's more about like understanding my firm belief, except for a very small percentage of parents who probably just aren't good people in general. Like there's a very, very small percentage. Majority of parents are doing the very best they can. And that is the outlook I go into trauma therapy with
right.
from a healing perspective. And when there's kids involved, I give a lot of education around the fact that sustained trauma and generational trauma actually causes changes to somebody's DNA and how they handle stress. So if you're able to, even if whatever healing you're doing now is affecting future generations of you and your kids, right? So it's not just stopping the cycle with my kids are not going to experience the sadness I experience or experience the pain I experience. It's also, I'm setting my kids up for resilience, plus their kids and their grandkids, et cetera, because the DNA changes actually do come, which is why you see in a lot of third world countries or countries that have had strife and war for many, many generations, you see some really resilient generations that really survive anything, right? They've gotten super tough in their DNA. They're born with resilience and stubbornness and determinedness, right? And
Yeah.
so, the healing actually can do that for generations. So I think, looking on the work you're doing is, I'm not just healing my kids' future, but I'm also like changing what my brother said, right? I'm changing the trajectory of our lives.
Vivia Collins wants to know where you're from, Dr. Annalisa. I know, but I'll let you answer.
Take a guess. I was going to say, take a guess. I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago, very proudly. I'm a
Trinidad.
Trini.
Because when you say islands, because your accent could be, confused
Yeah.
of them.
I mean, I feel like people think that I'm from all different places, right? And I've probably slowed down a little bit, because otherwise people don't understand me all the time. But when I'm with my family, it can get pretty strong Trini.
Yeah, like when you go home too, I'm sure. Like,
Yes.
I
Yes.
spent a month in Jamaica, and I thought that I was like, in the language, and they would just laugh at me. They would just, because I would be like, come on.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I think when I go home, it gets really strong. I took my fiance Chris to Trinidad for the first time, and he was like looking at me like, who are you? He'd never heard me talk like that before. He was like trying to interpret everything I said, but it was funny.
Viva Collins is from Jamaica. I love Jamaica. I've spent a month in a grill, and I spent a month, that was in 2011. And then in my 20s, I spent a month right between Montego Bay and Ocho Rios. When I'm back in my performing days, I performed for a bunch of bands there. A Russian billionaire had a birthday party for a week in a resort,
Wow.
Lido Bracco.
Oh my gosh, that's different types of experiences than probably.
I once became a yoga teacher in 2011, and I went once to be a hip hop dancer and dance for like Kiss and Sugar Ray and bands like that.
Oh my. Yeah, I used to go to Jamaica to ride horses. Very different experiences we had there. I was mucking out stalls and cleaning horses' hooves, and you're at a hip hop party. So we had like different kinds of experiences.
But in 2011, when Merrick was 5, I went to Jamaica
nice.
Grill, and I did my yoga teacher certification.
Oh,
Did
that's
yoga
a nice
all day, 6 days a week. I mean, I was like losing, like when I ran half marathons, like I was losing toenails. It was definitely hard. And people, it was like Survivor, even like a very expensive, what's it called? Not expensive, very experienced yoga teachers were going home because it was Ashtanga. I didn't know it was Ashtanga. And Ashtanga is like the hardcore. I thought it was just like doing like a regular vinyasa training. And I got there, and it was like the most hardcore yoga.
Yeah.
For supporting our tourism. Oh, of course, love Jamaica. Yeah, man. What the guan.
Correct.
So what would you like? So where can people find you? I'm gonna type your website in, and I did ask our friend Brad to come in and say hi, but he was watching while he was doing something else. So get to hear from our friend.
Right.
Jane, we love you. Okay, what is your website, Annalisa?
www.delimacg.com.
CG?
Counseling group, short for counseling group.
Okay. Smart you did it that way, because I kicked myself after a year after making my my links to my email and everything. So now that we change it to Next Level Wellness and Behavioral Health, it's Next Level Wellness BH.
Yes. Yeah. It just makes it a little bit easier.
So hard to
Yeah.
long. And then what is your Instagram professional one?
Yeah, it's Delima CG. Yeah.
Lima
CG. Yeah, that's our Instagram too.
CG.
Yeah.
On IG. Awesome. And what would you like to kind of share as your message, to kind of wrap us up of like the back to the topic of rethinking mental health, a whole person perspective. Like, what would you like to close it up with? Nice and tight with that.
Nice and tight. I think that an important message is that our symptoms are not a sign of personal weakness. The things that we go through, the things we're experiencing, if you have mental health or even substance abuse, right? They're signals. They're telling us we need to listen to something, right? We need to listen to our system, our body, and it's telling us something, right? And so healing is a journey, as Amanda said. It's not 5 minutes. Sometimes it's not even a year. For some people, it might be a year. But listening to our body and recognizing that we can treat ourselves in compassion and know that our bodies are telling us something, our minds are telling us something, our emotions are telling us something, and we can get help for that, and we can help you, right? We can certainly look and see how we can support you, and there's hope in that. And aside from just hope of healing, there's also hope of resilience and becoming like an even stronger person than you were before this all started. So I just think that's an important message, that there's hope to heal, and it's a journey.
And everyone can get better. Everyone can change their life. Like, this is not just special for certain people. Like, anyone is capable of this. I just want to added one more thing about you we didn't touch on, is how you specialize in working with first responders.
Yes.
It's just such a special niche to have. And you're engaged to a first responder, been with him for 10 years. A lot in that realm. If you could just add a little bit about that, what you do.
Yeah. I mean, first responders are a great example of the holistic approach to wellness, and they have such a tough job. They have, they're running into the fire when everybody's running away. They're running into extreme medical calls, and it takes not just physical toughness, it takes a lot of mental toughness, and also the ability to compartmentalize really well. And it takes a strong support system around them. And I think like they have some unique challenges, but they certainly have the ability to be well and be their best self, even with facing that type of job every day. But I do think it's the same with them, like looking at their whole system and who surrounds them and how they can heal from that. But I just think that developing resilience for them is probably like the most important thing, and healing through their journey in order to have that resilience so they can keep doing their job and saving our lives, right? I think
and like on, at least for like the fire and police, like I'll speak to kind of like those part of the first responders. There's a lot that fall under that umbrella. Like, you're still masculine if you ask for help and reach out for help. That's very, very attractive, I think, for a man to do their own healing work and to be connected to their emotions. So men, there's this, I know that you're like, you get this confusing message. Women want you to be the strong, the this, the that, but we also want you to be emotional, but not too emotional, because then you're, but just know that there's safe people like Dr. Annalisa to go to that understand and have worked with people like you and know how to help you navigate the things that maybe you were told not to ever talk about in your life. It's time. Mental health is on a rise, and it has been since COVID, because people felt finally like they could talk about it. They had no choice, or they were going to not live. You know what I mean? It was like that bad. So this is a space and a time where it's safer for men. It's it's safe for women abuse survivors to speak out. Like all of these things are safe places for you. And that's like been my kind of like my mission the past couple. It's why I went to all these countries and did all these things, is because I want to reach people, and hopefully we reach people today that have never heard of some of these things, that now they know that there's a way out, or there's hope, or there's help.
Mhm.
That there is an opportunity. And I found myself in this behavioral health bubble for over a decade. I'm like, who am I helping if we all know the same stuff? I'm not
Yeah,
helping
that's
here.
true.
You know,
Yeah.
I want to get in front of rooms of people that have never heard of EMDR. Even though
Yeah.
I do it, I can lead them to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that look, as you said, like touching people that didn't realize that maybe I'm having extreme anxiety, but I'm drinking like, a bunch of, whatever it is, energy drinks and eating a ton of sugar before bed, and I'm really struggling. Like, why am I having so much anxiety?
Yeah.
And understanding how much they can change just by making small little changes in their lives. I think that that's such an important piece.
Like if you want to make a change in your life and you bring some awareness to yourself and you take one action step, you are doing far more than many, many people in this world. So give yourself some credit if you even just listen to us today and you take one little action step to better yourself, whether it's professionally, whether it's getting outdoors, whether it's spiritually, whether it's by what you mindfully eat, all the things. Like, you're doing great. That's my
Absolutely,
so much
absolutely.
for coming on with me today. I look forward to seeing you in person again very soon, I hope. And thank you all for tuning in. I did put Annalisa's Instagram on here, as well as her website. Highly recommend her practice. I've worked with her and a number of therapists on her team. They really, really do great work. Great with communication, great with collaboration. So thank you for taking that leap, because I took that leap in 2019 and it was scary to go on my own. And I had people telling me, what the hell are you doing? Who do you know? What? And here I am, 2026, growing and thriving and very, very happy with what I have. So I'm so proud of you for taking that leap, and look what you're building. You're building something beautiful.
Thank you so much for having us on and always being such a big supporter. We love working with you guys, and we know you do the best work. And so I'm really happy to be here and happy to talk to you anytime. It's
Thank
great.
you. All right. You have a beautiful day. I'm going to click off Instagram first. I just hate that I can't see the questions on Instagram because it's on a different page. But we're going to say bye for now. Thanks for joining Levels Without Limits. And today's talk was with Dr. Annalisa de Lima, and she is in Jupiter, Florida. Please stay tuned for next week. While I'm not traveling, I do every Tuesdays, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I love to bring on guests that are smart and have something to add to the world. And I'm just extremely grateful. Thank you, Dr. Annalisa.